Morning, guys. We're going to do some simple homemade bread here. Just the way we put it together, so bear with us for a second and we will get this thing going. I really try to simplify how I make the bread, so what I do is I throw my bread in a container like this, and then I use a big spoon and I just pour it into a container that I have that I've already put a line on. That way all I've got to do is fill it to the line and stop and I'm good. Then I put it in there and I shake it up, and this is basically like using my sifter. I have a sifter, I hate using it because it's messy. So I just shake the bread, I shake the flour up in here, and now if you look, I've got it filled all the way up to there because now I've got some air in there. So I'm just going to do that, set that to the side. This is the container we're going to put the stuff in. I try and make it real simple by just using a little container that I can put my my liquid in, so that I don't have to use a actual cup container. Now I have it. I've got all those little container things here. I just hate working with them because they're such a pain to clean and to use in the kitchen. So I just use something that'll hold roughly a cup of milk. This is just a little bit shorter than a cup of milk. I could use water. I just choose to use this. This is just some soy milk. We use almond milk. We don't use real milk, so I'm going to use a cup and a half of that, which is going to be what I need liquid-wise. We don't like using real milk because real milk has a very short shelf life compared to this stuff. So as a prepper, if you will, we choose to use that stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and shake this up just a little bit more. I'm going to throw that in there. And get that going. Now, does it really matter what order we put it in? No, because like in 5 seconds I'm going to throw it in there and it's going to start spinning it. I've got a little cheat sheet here that tells me how many things to do in case I forget. This is my yeast. It calls for 2 tablespoons of yeast. So I'm literally just going to grab 2 tablespoons of yeast here. Tablespoon, teaspoon, right out of the drawer. I don't like using those others, again, because it's all put together. It's a lot easier to grab a tablespoon, grab a teaspoon, get used to using those in your recipes, and then you can adjust as needed, but this is tablespoon, teaspoon. So I need 2 tablespoons of that. Then I'm going to put the sugar in because the yeast is going to eat the sugar. And it calls for 3 tablespoons of sugar in this recipe. 1, 2, and 3. So there we go with the sugar. There we go with the yeast. Then it calls for a teaspoon and a half of salt. We're not real fans of salt, so we're just going to put 8 teaspoons of salt in there. If you don't put the salt in there, it tastes just a little funny. So in the past, we haven't used it at all. Didn't like the taste of it, so we're going to go ahead and put 1 of those in there. Now, the bread that I'm using right now is regular flour. I have the other kind of bread, which is made for, other kind of flour, which is actually a bread flour, but I'm not using that today because somebody said, hey, what if I don't have bread flour? What if I just have regular all-purpose flour? So that's what we're using today. If I was using the bread flour, I'd be done, and that's all I'd put in there. But I'm not. I'm using regular purpose flour today, so I'm going to use an egg as well. These are eggs from our chickens. They automatically rotate, so I'm going to come down here and take the bottom one, and then these guys will just rotate back, and then I'll be able to put another one up at the top there. So 1 fresh egg, save that to go in the garden, and that's it. Now all I have to do is bring the bread maker forward, drop this little puppy in there, like that, lock it in place, hit the start button, and we're done. This is going to take 3.5 hours to make, and then once it's done, we're going to end up with a loaf of bread, which is going to look like this. We made this last night, and I just wanted to show you guys beginning to, from cradle to grave, the whole thing now. Somebody brought by a loaf of bread the other day. Not quite sure why, but we're going to end up sharing this with our chickens, because our chickens love to eat bread and everything else. But here's a regular piece of bread. Here's a regular piece of bread compared to, well, actually, I guess it'd be right here. That's a regular piece of bread compared to the loaves of bread that we're making. We'll throw this onto a cutter. And we'll end up slicing that up. Now once it goes in here, we got to be careful we don't make it too tall. See how now it's over the top and it's so wide it'll barely fit in there, but we'll slide it in like that and then we'll chop it up. And once we're done, we'll end up with pieces like this. Now, to give you guys an idea of how big this actually is, this is a gallon size Ziploc bag. And that's how much room it takes up in there. So, real good, real healthy size piece of bread. We make a loaf at least a day, throw it out for the chickens. We eat some of it ourselves, but it's a, what are you going to do with those 400 pounds of flour that you got stored? Can't keep it forever, so this is what we do with it. We keep it just rolling and keep loaves of bread going. Now you can also cook it other than putting it in there, but you're going to have to put it in a container, you're going to have to let it rise, you're going to have to beat it back down, let it rise again, and then you can actually use the same recipe and bake it straight into the oven and make your bread that way. Yep, that's it guys. Hope this helps.